So today was supposed to be our day off from archaeological visits. I went to the beach. It was nice in the beginning, and then a real strong wind started to come, and then it got cloudy, and so we said, okay, we go to see the theater of Epidaurus, which is quite impressive. Here we have a massive wall, which is on the side of the theater, and now we walk in. It's supposed to be so acoustically thought out that one can whisper in the center of the theater and it will be heard even on the highest positions. It's adapted to a hill, so it's not really built, it's just like dug and then covered with stone. But there's a massive amount of stone being used here. It's still quite good state of preservation. So it's important always to not underestimate even the Greeks, which came later, the classical Greeks. You see here each block of stone is at least, and this one is 2 meters long, and it's carved in a way to make a footwalk on the back part and a bench on the forward part. So I was wondering what happened if you break a corner of this. Would you just replace the whole piece? Look at this piece. So you know what, just to show you comparison with Deborah, the size of this block. It's really huge. I'd say, yeah, 2 meters long at least for 1 by 1 meter deep and 30-40 centimeters thick. And there's not one of them here. It's hundreds. So we were wondering if this is a level which has been remade, because you can see it's really nice, but differently from all the others, it's like separate. You see behind there's another block behind it, whereas all the others are one monolithic block doing both the walking path and the bench. So maybe this is the answer to my question. Maybe sometime in the past a piece broke off and that's the way they repaired it, so they didn't replace the whole block but just a part of it. But anyway, it's still a block going down all the way to the bottom. So here we got to a level where there's a walk all along the semi-hemisphere of the theater, and here there's a whole line of benches, most of them broken but some are still preserved, like this one. And I sat down on them and they're quite comfortable actually. I mean, it's amazing to sit on a chair. Look at that, just make a chair like this. It's not an easy task, and if it was just that, but there's thousands, thousands, certainly thousands of blocks like this. These levels are all very nice. I believe they've probably been remade in more recent times, but since it's still being used today, and it's probably being used for thousands of years, they keep on repairing it whenever some parts get broken, and they try to preserve the same style. You see here, there's an ancient block here, and there's a new block here. So just an observation about this place, because this is not usually considered to be a place for people who love megaliths and big stones and stuff like that. But as I showed you just before, there's a lot of big stones here, and generally there's a lot of stones here. So there is one story which has not been cleared over the years, even by alternative archaeologists or researchers, which is that Plato, when he speaks about Atlantis, he speaks of 9,000 years before his era, so that would make it about 9,600 BC, which is 11,600 years ago. And one thing which is really unclear to this date, and many even alternative researchers consider Plato to be wrong somehow, is that he's saying in his books, in his dialogues, that Atlantis was at war with Athens. So that couldn't be possible for what we know today about Hellenistic culture. But still, he says that Atlantis was at war with Athens. So that would give us a hint, if that were true, that these places might be a lot older as well. Not just those I've been showing you in all my videos, but even the classical Greek classical places may be a lot older than what is usually recognized, which is below 1,000 years BC. And the big stones here maybe could corroborate this idea together with Plato's statement. So another view from the other side, and just a few more information about this theater. It's got 55 rows that I made a guess, I couldn't find the exact data, but it should be high, about something more than 20 meters from here to the bottom. And there, in its function as a theater, there was room for up to 14,000 people. Just to give a sense of scale, and I mean, this is a handrail, at least that's what it looks like, and it's huge. I mean, look at Deborah, it's probably half a meter high and probably the same in thickness. So it's really amazing. I mean, why would you do something this size? Could be half of it and it was still solid enough for anyone not to fall down. And just to show that it's been certainly repaired over time, you can see this one piece of handrail is another color and it's another stone. I guess some pink, I don't know, like limestone kind of stone. And you can see it's another piece because there's no T sign here and neither here. And all the others have it. So I don't usually do this kind of observations when I visit archaeological sites, even if I actually do this kind of measurements, but for whoever understands about these things, I measured 14,000 bovies on the top of the theater, about 27,000 midway. There's 38,000 here in the flat part, and in the center, where the kid at this moment is standing, it's 47,000 bovies. So that would indicate that the focal point of the place is down here. Well, just hypothesis, this could have had another function if it was just inherited by the Greeks, which is of course just a speculation of mine. You're just on the side of the theater, and you can see that there's clearly two different types of construction here. I mean, a very, at least quite new one, very precise, very nice, and then there's these blocks which are really, really worn out. Could that be just 2,800 years or whatever, 3,000 years, what the official dating is? Or could it be that they're older? I don't know, no expert in stones, and I just wonder, somebody could talk about this better than me, but could this be just 3,000 years of water weathering, or could it be a lot more? Well, it's not a hard stone, I guess it's some kind of sandstone from the color of it. So as they always say, life is in the details, and mostly expected here in Epidaurus, where I thought we could just find Hellenistic stuff. What do we find here? A small piece of polygonal wall. You can see the stones have been shaped to fit one another, as we have already seen quite a few times. It actually looks again like even the style with this protruding or rather convex stones is the one we've been seeing now quite frequently in these areas, and it's of course a complete different style than one we just saw in the theater. It's really collapsed, most of it is collapsed, but here they are again. Look at that. It's our typical polygonal style kind of wall. Here again, it's very low, it's just 50 centimeters, and I guess it's not being dug out in any way. Now it actually disappears completely. We're gonna walk in other areas, maybe we find more. So there's quite a plethora of blocks around here, as you can see, pieces of column, huge slabs, other type of construction. But I recall at this point that polygonal masonry is officially attributed, as far as I know, to the Mycenaean culture and, let's say, cultures of that time. And here we have, in a classical Greek site, we have a polygonal wall. So again, the thought comes to our mind that this site too has been reused, because Greeks were famous for their nicely square cut blocks, not for polygonal walls, but let's say classical Greeks at least. And here we have, really, it's not been dug out almost at all. You can just see 1, 2 rows of stones, but they are clearly not, at least not square blocks. They have another shape. There's the one, very nice. A few joints there. The precision is always the same. So you're probably gonna get bored about polygonal walls after this trip of mine. If you follow my channel, well, I won't get bored. So and while I show you this other piece of polygonal masonry, always in the same building, I have to excuse myself because I was wrong. I said that the theater was built sometime between 800 BC or 1000 BC, but actually it was built 400 BC according to official datings. And then every once in a while there's a huge slab set on top of these stones. Really big one, this one as well. It's probably 2.5 meters long. Just, Deborah, please lay on it. And as you can see, there's other two right behind, not so big, but so Deborah is 160. I am so sorry, but I had to show you this joint here, as well as quite a few others here. Really collapsed, but you can still see the idea behind it. So and here things get interesting again. We have this huge area which is officially considered another kind of, I don't know, Odeon they call it. And unfortunately I cannot get close because there's a fence, but these blocks are again huge. Maybe further on we can get closer, but I would guess, I mean, they're not very long, but they're tall and deep. Most of them are double, but some of them are cover the whole side, and you can see how flat where the stones have gone. And sometimes they don't even cut it straight. You see it's cut on an angle. This one has a really strange shape. I cannot get closer than this, I'm sorry, but maybe I can point it. You can see that it's really got a strange shape. So more blocks, and I tell you, seen from here, they really look, at least the lines, they look like they've been machined, because it's so precise, so neat, so clean. And then again here you can see every third block. Oh, maybe here we can go in. Yeah, so why they put this? Oh, okay, so we can get a sense of scale with Deborah in front of them. You can see here it was almost as if they wanted to have a cut in between. So here it's two stones, maybe it's not, maybe, but then you get to this one, and here it's one block which covers the whole area. And here you have these details here where it's smoothed out fantastically, and so flat here I can hardly feel any difference. And they've been here at least 2,400 years. And here again a feature we've seen before in a completely different place. You watch one of my last videos, and again there is one underground. You can just barely guess there was one, and then you have a row of, they're maybe 40 centimeters high, and then there's a row which are 60 or 70 centimeters high, and this wall goes on and on and on. So a quick calculation of the size of this block, I measured it, it's about 1 meter by 75 centimeters by 75 centimeters deep, yields a weight of about 1.4 tons if it's limestone with a density of 2.5 tons per cubic meter. So this single block is 1.4 tons. Now, most people are not aware that that's the weight of a normal car today. So that's the weight of a normal car. This one is about twice as big, and there's hundreds of them. And we've seen in the theater even bigger ones. So I'm sorry to repeat myself again, but here it's really flat, and I get from one stone to the other and it's completely flat. I cannot feel any difference. And look at the joint here. The joint, there's no knife going through it. And then we go on, and there's another here. This I can feel a little difference, maybe half a centimeter or something. This one is in bad shape. And here we have new ones with another color. So since I'm here, I cannot avoid to say that we have a stadium here as well, and this is it. Not much left of it, but you can still make out the idea. And just for the record, there's a few columns here. You can see a part of the roof starting up down there. But I personally believe this is partly reconstructed, because you can see some older part on these columns, but most of them is really nicely preserved. And since I've seen before things like that happening in Italy as well, just to attract tourists, they make one or two columns so that those nice postcards can be made. And here, tons and tons of stones again. We go on our walk looking for more polygonal walls. So the site is quite big, and there's really not a lack of stone here, as you can see. Any kind of thing, altars, columns. Here's a very nice and beautiful bench made out of stone, rounded bench. Other huge blocks everywhere, and there's quite some rebuilds being made. Now we get these columns where I want to see what is original and what is not. Here too you can clearly see the basic piece of the column is fake or remade, and then the three parts on top are original, much more consumed and worn out. There's even some writing here in Greece. It's quite some stuff. There's a platform here, and here it seems we have a well. It's going down quite deep. And there's a structure which is really strange. It's like a platform with a passageway to go on top, of course made of huge blocks of stone. It looks like it's been dancing a little bit, moving. It's not straight anymore, but it's massive. Massive. One huge block after the other. I'll give you a sense of scale. I'll show you Deborah in this jungle of big stones. I believe it was the basement of some temple, probably. The platform upon which the temple was built, and there's quite some columns around as well. There's a gathering over there. We're still in this huge flat open space where the columns and the big walls are, and I see here something that looked like original retaining wall. And what I find in the retaining wall, a polygonal junction. You see the wall goes on, it's just really in bad shape. It's not been taken care of at all. Stones are worn out, but they seem to have been polygonal. So just to show for how many years these places have been used, I mean, here we have a column. Here we are in I believe, the Roman baths. Anyway, we have this column which is really nice, really neat, really flat and smooth. Really nice. And then we move over here, and we have this slice of a column. Look at the state of this one. That's completely worn out, completely consumed. Of course, it may be, you can still see the shells. So this was certainly another type of stone, but I mean, marble is not that hard. It's harder than sandstone, but it's not that hard. So even at the times when this place was used, it's probably hundreds if not thousands of years have been passed, and it's been used by people who made all different kinds of construction, partly reusing older stuff and partly just building new ones. So again, we have here a really worn out and weathered column, and just 5 meters further, where Deborah is sitting, a beautiful, I don't know, basement of something, really nicely cut, really still in good shape, with even some metal parts still protruding from them, from which they were connected to other parts, whatever was on top. Here again we have the big blocks we saw before. We are now right on the other side, and this interesting thing again is, if you watch carefully in that part, we cannot go in unfortunately, you can see these big blocks, and in alternation to that there's brick walls. So this again is clear indication that this place has been utilized by different cultures. If you had the knowledge and capabilities to position such big blocks as those you can see there, I'm sorry, as soon as I get beyond these trees, then why would you use bricks and mortar, which is a lot less long-lasting than a stone wall? And this wall down here has got such a neat and straight line from block to block to block. It really, as Ben from Uncharted X would say, it really looks like machine made. So to close up this trip to Epidaurus, which has been a real surprise, we find a beautiful theater with huge blocks of stones. Then we have some buildings with polygonal walls around it, and then we have this enclosure here with huge square blocks around it. Very precise, very nicely machined, or very nicely made. Machined is just a guess, a hypothesis. Thanks for watching.